Have you ever wondered why, despite mastering money management tips, you're still living paycheck to paycheck? Here's a shocking truth. 61% of Americans unknowingly sabotage their own wealth-building journey with 8 deadly money habits. In this video, I'll pull back the curtain on each one. Habit 4 alone could cost you tens of thousands of dollars a year. You've been told, save more, spend less, but that's only half the story. Common financial advice is rigged to keep you stuck in the rat race. Backed by data from the Federal Reserve, you'll see how our modern banking system preys on these blind spots. Ignore these habits, and you'll never achieve true generational wealth. Your family's financial future is on the line. Stay till the end for the game-changing strategy top investors don't want you to know. No cash flow plan, money without a mission. Once I realized how drastically financial behavior differed between the successful and those stuck in debt, I zoomed in on the specific habits. And the first one that stood out was the lack of cash flow management, or more bluntly, money without a mission. I've worked with so many people earning great salaries, some making over $100,000 a year, yet they're left with mere scraps in their bank account at the end of each month. They follow a routine: earn money, pay bills, spend what's left, and if it's not enough, swipe the credit card. This cycle has become so normal they don't even recognize it as a quiet form of financial bleeding. There's no strategy, no financial blueprint. Every dollar they earn is like a soldier thrown into battle without a general. No orders, no direction, no mission. And you already know, a disorganized army doesn't win wars. I always tell my clients to think of money as a battalion, and they are the commander. Without leadership, chaos reigns. But when every dollar is assigned a purpose, money becomes a tool for building financial freedom. The solution is simpler than you might think. I call it the 70-30 rule. It's changed the financial lives of countless people, including entrepreneurs you've probably heard of. Imagine living on just 70% of your net income after taxes and mandatory expenses. The remaining 30% is split evenly into 3 buckets. 10% goes to investments. Treat it like a non-negotiable bill, just like rent or utilities. Whether you invest in index funds like the S&P 500 or individual stocks, the key is to make your money start working for you. Another 10% goes toward debt repayment, especially consumer debt. Start reducing that burden month by month. The final 10%? Give it away. Or if you're not ready to give, invest it. Giving isn't just about generosity. It nurtures an abundant, expansive mindset, the kind wealthy people live by. Tony Robbins, one of America's most renowned life coaches, once said he began giving away 10% of his income when he was still broke. That act didn't make him poorer. It made him feel empowered, like he was in control of his money, not the other way around. Wealthy individuals understand every dollar is a tool to build the future. And the first thing they do when they get paid isn't spend, it's to invest, as if they're making a payment toward their future self. I'm not telling you to live miserably. I'm telling you, take control by allocating money smartly. One small habit change today can lay the foundation for lasting financial freedom. 2. No emergency fund. After I began managing my cash flow more strategically, things started to feel more stable. But then another truth hit me. No matter how well you plan, life will always throw you curveballs. And what's truly terrifying is how many people have no financial lifeboat when a crisis strikes. A car breaks down, a surprise medical bill, worse, losing a job. These things happen more often than we'd like to admit. And without an emergency fund, people are forced to borrow, rack up credit card debt, or beg family members for help. Just one unexpected event can pull an entire family into a spiral of debt. I've seen this scenario play out thousands of times in my line of work. Not because people aren't trying, but because they weren't prepared. That's why the wealthy always maintain an emergency fund. They understand that life is full of unpredictable risks, and smart people get ahead of risk. They don't chase after it. Remember the early days of Howard Schultz's entrepreneurial journey, the legendary CEO of Starbucks? Before Starbucks became a global coffee empire, Schultz once faced the brink of bankruptcy. A series of unforeseen setbacks had frozen the company's cash flow. But because he had prepared in advance with contingency planning and a personal emergency fund, he weathered the storm without having to give up equity or take on predatory loans with outrageous interest rates. So, how can you create a safety cushion like that for yourself? The answer lies in applying the 70-30 rule I mentioned earlier. But this time, set aside a portion of that investment allocation specifically to build an emergency fund. Set a clear goal. Save up enough to cover 6 months' worth of living expenses, including rent, food, transportation, and essential bills. And don't wait until you have extra to start saving. Treat your savings like a non-negotiable bill. Transfer that money into your emergency fund the moment you receive your paycheck, before you spend a single cent on anything else. This doesn't just give you peace of mind, it trains you in discipline, the kind of discipline that underpins all financial success. I get it, starting is always the hardest part, but you don't have to come up with 6 months' worth of expenses all at once. Start with 500, then 1,000, then 2,000. Step by step, but steadily. Just like Warren Buffett once said, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." Life will always throw unexpected punches, but it's how you prepare for them that defines who you are. The poor react, the wealthy prepare.
3. Confusing saving with investing. When I first built up a decent emergency fund, I thought I was set. But the truth was, letting money just sit in a savings account wasn't bringing me any closer to financial freedom. In fact, it was quietly losing value by the day. So many people fall into the same trap I did, thinking saving is enough. They diligently deposit money into the bank each month, believing they're being responsible. What they don't realize is that while their money sits there, seemingly safe, inflation is silently eroding its value, just like how the sun melts ice on a hot summer day. Last year, you could fill a shopping cart with $100. This year, the same amount might only get you half as much. Let's look at the numbers. Traditional U.S. savings accounts typically offer interest rates between 0.5% and 4.5% annually, depending on the bank. But average inflation ranges from 3% to 6% per year, meaning your money is losing value faster than it's growing. Over time, it's a battle savings can't win. In contrast, investing is where your money works for you, even while you sleep. For example, ETFs like SPY or VOO, which track the S&P 500, a benchmark of America's 500 largest companies, have delivered average annual returns of around 10% for decades. That's the difference between holding money to survive and using money to build wealth. I think of Mark Cuban, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks and a famed investor on Shark Tank. Though he's cautious about risk, he constantly emphasizes, sitting on cash is the fastest way to lose in the financial game. Smart investors never let money stay idle. The solution, for me, turned out to be surprisingly simple. I opened an investment account with Robinhood and later with Fidelity and Charles Schwab to broaden my options. Each month, I set up automatic transfers from my income, just like paying a phone bill, and invested in trustworthy ETFs like SPY and VOO. These funds represent hundreds of major companies working on my behalf every single day. I also took advantage of tax-advantaged accounts like Roth IRA, 401k, and HSA, tools the government actually encourages you to use for long-term investing without worrying about capital gains taxes. Some accounts even let you withdraw your money tax-free in retirement. If all your money is sitting in a savings account, ask yourself, do you want your money to sleep or do you want it to work tirelessly for you? Don't let this mistake drag on any longer. Let investing become your quiet yet relentless partner, helping you build wealth dollar by dollar, day by day.
4. Procrastination. Someday. I used to think, I'll start investing seriously once things settle down. But that day never came. Time and again I told myself, next year, after I get a raise, or when I have more money. It was as if I were stuck in an invisible loop called someday, a day that never shows up on the calendar. That's the trap of procrastination. It's quiet, it doesn't scream, but it slowly, ruthlessly erodes your financial dreams. Every time you hesitate, you miss the opportunity for compound interest to start working its magic. It's like planting a seed but putting off watering it until the soil dries up and the seed dies with it. I'm not the only one who's fallen into this sweet-sounding trap. Plenty of smart people with good incomes still carry the same thought. Not yet, it's not the right time. But as Warren Buffett once said, the best investment you can make is the one you make as early as possible. Returns don't come from perfection. They come from consistency and time. Take Sarah Blakely, founder of the billion-dollar shapewear brand Spanx. She started with just $5,000 and an idea while still selling fax machines door to door. She didn't wait until conditions were perfect. She didn't wait for the market to be right. She simply started with what she had. Today, she's America's youngest self-made female billionaire. What I learned is this: you don't need to be perfect to start. You just need to start to have a shot at becoming great. The cure for procrastination isn't more information or more money. It's one concrete action right now. As soon as I realized that, I opened an investment account. It took just minutes on my phone through Robinhood. I set up automatic transfers. 20% of my monthly income would go straight into my investment account. No decisions needed, no reminders. That small action became a major turning point because I knew I had just escaped the tomorrow trap. If you're hearing this right now, then it's not someday, it's today. Because if you keep waiting, time won't wait for you. Each day that passes is a missed opportunity. And success doesn't come from promises. It comes from action. 5. Not knowing the difference between debt and leverage. When I started my financial journey, I believed that debt is bad. The moment I heard the word debt, I panicked. But eventually, I realized the problem isn't whether you borrow, it's what you borrow for. And it was that lack of understanding that nearly led me down the wrong path. Here's a truth few people will tell you. Not all debt is bad. Some loans are like bottomless pits that swallow your wealth. But others can be the springboard to financial freedom. The difference between the two? Bad debt versus financial leverage. I used to spend recklessly with my credit card, never giving it much thought. I bought a car far nicer than I needed, stocked my closet with designer clothes just to keep up with my friends. I borrowed money not to invest, but to satisfy impulsive wants. The result? The interest piled up day after day, and I had no income stream to pay it back. I fell into the very trap that so many people are stuck in every single day, borrowing to spend, then borrowing again to pay off the last debt. In contrast, the wealthy individuals I've learned from think completely differently. They don't borrow money to consume. They borrow to acquire income-generating assets. A prime example is Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He once shared how he used bank loans to buy rental properties. The monthly rent from tenants covered both the principal and the interest on the loan, and whatever was left over became his profit. The asset paid the debt for him, not the other way around. I also learned about Grant Cardone, a well-known real estate investor in the U.S. He leveraged debt strategically to build a real estate empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He didn't avoid debt, he embraced it, but only when he was confident that borrowed money would generate returns greater than the cost of borrowing. Those lessons completely transformed how I use debt. I no longer borrow to spend or chase short-term pleasures. Instead, I created a rule for myself. Only borrow when that money will be invested in something that reliably generates income, whether it's real estate, short-term investment lending, or a business venture. If you're standing at a crossroads, deciding whether to use debt to live now and pay later, or to use it to build your future, remember this. Poor people repay debt with sweat, while the rich let their assets pay for them. The difference isn't about whether or not they have debt. It's about how wisely they understand and use it. 6. Not understanding the power of compound interest. After I learned how to differentiate between bad debt and financial leverage, it felt like I had just unlocked a new mental doorway to wealth. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. There was another principle, quiet, powerful, and deeply influential, that I had completely overlooked. It was the power of compound interest. It sounds simple, almost boring, but compound interest is a double-edged sword. If you understand it, you can let money work for you and build long-term wealth. But if you don't, or worse, misunderstand it, you'll become its victim, crushed under the weight of ever-growing debt. I made that mistake. In my younger years, I used credit cards freely without considering the consequences. Month after month, I only paid the minimum, while a 20% interest rate quietly accumulated. After just over 3 years, my original debt had nearly doubled. Interest doesn't sleep. It works silently, relentlessly, and without mercy. It doesn't care if you're tired, busy, or trying your best. Later, I came across a simple but incredibly useful tool, the Rule of 72. Just divide 72 by the interest rate and you'll know how long it takes for your money or your debt to double. For example, if you invest at an average return of 10%, your money doubles in about 7 years. But if you're stuck with credit card debt at 20%, that debt doubles in less than 4 years. This rule plays no favorites. It works with perfect precision for both the wise and the ignorant. What changed everything for me was when I started applying compound interest to investing instead of debt. I began putting money into ETFs like SPY, which tracks the S&P 500 and offers an average return of around 10% annually. When I invested $10,000, I didn't expect to become rich overnight. But I knew that if I held steady and let compounding do its work, that $10,000 could grow to $20,000 in 7 years, $40,000 in 14, $80,000 in 21, and even $160,000 in 28 years. From one small decision, from a single seed of discipline, I could grow an entire financial garden for the future. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, once said, "Compound interest is like a snowball. Start with a small one and find a really long hill." He began investing as a child, and it was compound interest that turned modest beginnings into hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth. What I've learned is this: you don't have to be smarter than everyone else. You just have to be more consistent. Start early, invest regularly, and let time do the heavy lifting. Don't let compound interest become a silent enemy. Make it the most powerful ally in your wealth-building journey. 7. Spending more than you earn. Once I fully grasped the power of compounding and began planting the first seeds of my financial future, I discovered another silent enemy still draining my wallet day after day. And the truth is, that enemy wasn't out there somewhere. It was right inside my habits, spending more than I earned. A financial trap that so many people fall into, including me. At first, I told myself, it's just a little extra spending. I'll make it up next month. But that little extra, repeated month after month, turned into mounting debt. Spending beyond your income is like running a race where the finish line keeps moving faster than your feet. To keep up, I had to borrow, sometimes from credit cards, sometimes from friends or family. And so I fell into a repeating financial loop: debt, repayment, more debt, and once again, short on cash. They call it the losing loop. Once you're in, it's hard to get out without a shift in mindset and behavior. I used to live emotionally. If I saw something beautiful, I bought it. If everyone else had it, I wanted it too. I had no budget, no spending limits, and it felt like I was standing on sinking sand. The harder I stomped, the deeper I sank. Then I learned a simple but life-changing rule. Live on only 70% of your net income. It might sound strict at first, but this one principle completely transformed my financial life. Every time money hit my account, I immediately set aside 20% for investments, 10% for savings, and lived on the remaining 70%. I automated the investment and savings contributions as if they were non-negotiable bills, just as essential as rent or electricity. I no longer waited to see how much was left at the end of the month before investing. I invested first, before spending, a priority that could not be postponed. That shift didn't just make me a more disciplined spender, it helped me slowly build a stronger financial foundation day by day. I thought of people like Dave Ramsey, author of The Total Money Makeover, who helped millions of Americans escape debt through strict budgeting, living below their means, and investing early. Or Grant Cardone, who once said he treats every dollar he earns like an employee, and it's his job to assign them where they can produce the highest return, instead of wasting them on things that don't matter. If you're currently living paycheck to paycheck, spending more than you earn, I understand how heavy that pressure feels, but I want you to know you can change that, starting today. Cut 10% from your spending, then another 10%. Automate your savings, and most importantly, remember that financial freedom is worth fighting for every single day. Thank you so much for watching. Your presence and support mean the world to me. It's what keeps me going and creating meaningful content every day. If you have your own story, a lesson you've learned, or a problem that's been weighing on you, share it with me in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and maybe create a video that helps you find clarity. If this video helped you, don't forget to hit like, share it with someone who might need a push to change their life, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next video, where we'll keep diving into powerful, practical, and inspiring life lessons. See you in the next video, and remember, your future is in your hands. It all starts today.